I'm contacted at some juncture by Inc. magazine. Oh, good gracious. These silly people keep buzzing me in. Sorry about that. So I'm contacted by Inc. magazine, and they say, listen, we would love for you to basically do, a series of articles for us on entrepreneurship. So one article turns into 2, 4, 6, 10, 15, 20. I think I wrote 52 articles for them over a period of about 4 or 5 years and such. And then I'm hanging out. Actually, when Jamie and I think actually mentioned this when we were at my high school reunion, Jamie crashed. I'm hanging out with Scott Garvis. Jamie probably will remember the name. And our friend Scott Garvis basically runs a bunch of Dale Carnegie's down South Florida. And he says, my God, why don't you put these together in a book? So I did. And so in essence, the stories, and I have it around here somewhere, but, so I wrote this book called The Maverick Method, which is basically, my first book that has been largely, so we're learning how to market it as well, but that's part of entrepreneurship, right? You test what works and what doesn't work. It's had, tepid sales so far, but we'll see. But the Maverick Method literally just refers to, well, how did you do this and such? It has nothing to do with Tom Cruise and, Maverick 2, or Top Gun 2 that's coming out here soon. It's Brett Maverick, if anyone's ever heard of the movie Maverick with Jodie Foster and Mel Gibson. And basically it has everything to do, and it's all boring in the book, but it has everything to do with watch and learn first and then leap, really what it means. And the character in the movie Maverick basically watches everyone play poker, he learns their tells, and then crushes them. And that's effectively what I did in that dank basement for about 3 years before we really blew it up. I learned the industry in and out. I knew where they were weak, where we could improve on them, and where we could just kill them in basically, customer service and other things like that. And that's what we ended up doing. Now, concluding this who I am type of thing, the really cool thing about all of this is, at least from my perspective and from young entrepreneurs' perspective, is I've had the perfect focus group since 2003 to basically really look and see what works and what does not work. And it's fascinating because we've helped about 100,000 people to start their businesses here in the US. And with the exception of possibly LegalZoom, which again used to be up the road from you all, they're now out in Austin, Texas primarily. But they're about the only ones that have actually helped more than us in the United States. And so there's these general principles of entrepreneurship that we've sort of identified, a whole bunch of them and such. A lot of them are really obvious, but for some reason, we still get probably 40% of the people that come into us to found their companies, to file their trademarks and stuff that really needed this. And so we put it down in a book. All of our customers get the book and we say, please read the book, before you actually move forward with your dream, because we don't want anyone to fail. Okay. So now that I've taken you for about, 13 minutes already. Is there anything that, I can't imagine there's questions now, but does anyone have anything that they want me to touch on or anything? I've got the questions that Lauren does, because then I'm going to go through some of the things that we see all the time that hopefully you guys as entrepreneurs won't step into and such. Anyone yell anything out?
Hey, Matt, this is Ryan. So why copyright though? Because there's a whole bunch of different fields you could be going into, but why was it just looked opportune? Is it just you're like, I woke up today and I spoke with my boo and she said, why don't we do trademark and copyright? Like, why that?
Okay, thank you. Primarily because like when, we were young and married, my former wife and I, we were living down this, hallway from, in essence, another young couple. And, it was the .com era and they were in this big mega firm. And I can't remember the name of it now, but I always sort of was just drawn at first, I said, I didn't want to be a trial attorney anymore. I want to be one of those big respected firms. And all the big respected firms in Northern Virginia were effectively doing IP law, copyrights, trademarks, and patents. I was a personal injury attorney. I had nothing on my resume that was going to attract these people. And so I figured, well, let me flip over to US Patent and Trademark Office so I can join Shane and Shelley's firm. But then along the way, I just said, why do I want to join their firm and stay and being, a button down lawyer? I want to basically go out and create my own, better mousetrap and such. Thanks, Ryan. I hope that answered the question. Anyone else got anything before I move on? All right. One of the first ones that we always see and a lot of, and I've seen this, I can't tell you, we have filed 40,000. I think as of this morning, it was 40,100 and something trademarks in the last several years for people. And if you're gonna, basically go through this entrepreneurial journey, the first rule I've got to tell you, and it's going to seem really obvious, but I'm going to go through the statistics with you, and then you're going to be like, oh, well, maybe it's not that obvious, is you've got to create a product that people want. Now, you're going to be like, duh, I can't believe he's actually saying this. But let me take you through a couple of statistics, and maybe you get this in class and maybe you don't. 50% of all businesses fail in the first 5 years. We all know that, right? Now, let's throw down another statistic and layer on top of that. 45% of that 50% fail because there was no market for the product they created. So if you're doing the math with me here, and you guys are probably better at math than I am, but I mean, that's around what, 24, 25%, something like that, 45% times 50%, probably about 24, 25, about right under 25%, obviously, right? Wait, 45% times 50%. You're right, so 24%. Anyways, businesses fail because you put your blood, sweat, and tears into a product that there is never going to be a market for. We had one of the most brilliant inventors come to me about 15 years ago, and she invented something that was so cool, I thought it was just going to take off. She took a Roomba. Does everyone know what a Roomba is? Okay, a little vacuum cleaner. I got about 3 of them right around the corner over here and such. But anyways, her grandma had problems breathing, and she was so sick and tired of basically watching her grandmother, and if anyone's ever gone through this, it sucks and such, but, wrap her oxygen cords, around the house, basically trying to, and all that sort of stuff. So she invented something called Ox on Go, which was effectively an oxygen carrier on a Roomba with a very early GPS device, and it would just follow her around. So she only had to have a 6-foot cord, so it never got, tangled up on anything. It's awesome. She went to product launch it, we went to launch it, and then they came out with a portable thing that just basically creates oxygen right underneath your arm about like a month before launch. And we're just like, yeah, you're not going to sell a unit of this. And she didn't, unfortunately. It's a great thought, but it's one of those things. Just another quick one. I can remember, helping out some guys that came up with this concept of frickin' beer. Okay. Yes, frickin' beer, and such. And how they came up with it, they were just absolutely obliterated one night. You can guess it, on beer and such. And they said, give me a freaking beer. They decided to make an entire company out of this and all that sort of stuff. By the time they got to me, I'm like, okay, let's roll. How are we going to do this? You got the trademark. I can have the trademark. Let's launch all that sort of stuff. But they never did any product sampling. They didn't have beer. They had never brewed beer. And so when you get through all this, finally they brewed their first beer and we tasted it, and oh my God, I wouldn't have used it to take the paint off my car. It was horrible. So again, they spent all this money on branding and, doing all the legal stuff that we'll touch on in a sec, but then they just didn't have a product that was going to sell. So listen, you all have your friends, you have, the great people at the university here that can help you out, and such. So when you come up with that next great widget, just make sure to bounce it off of you people. You've got to do a little bit of sampling, make sure there's going to be a market for it, because you're going to invest your blood, sweat, and tears in this. And you don't want it just to fall flat, because especially if you spend your savings or something like that. So create a product that people want, please. Okay. Number 2, make it legal. And this is, again, this is going to get to a lot of the questions that actually were submitted. I'm going to try to roll some of them into this as I roll through this. Number one thing when you're an entrepreneur, do not listen. Well, gosh, I hope I'm not going against anything that they taught you at school. Always listen to the school first. But from my experience, make sure that you form an LLC. Okay. An LLC is the easiest corporate structure. So I always say it's technically not, well, it's a limited liability company. Back again, when Jamie and I were growing up, they would say, oh, you have to form in Delaware or something like that. Nah, 90% of most businesses, especially for a small entrepreneurial startup, just form it right in your state. And so I'm going to tell you, we form, just tons all the time. You don't need a service like ours. It is so easy to do. Go to your Secretary of State's website, California Secretary of State. you got a couple little funky nuances out in California. Just so you know, there's a tax thing that you guys have to register for as well within like 40 days or something. I remember. But for the most part, form your own company. Why? Does everyone know why? Because if they sue you, okay, a company, the LLC, will protect you. So let's say that you make, I don't know, this pencil, right? And someone's, somehow does something bad with the pencil to themselves and they want to sue you for product liability. Okay. If it's an LLC, they get to sue the LLC. And the worst case scenario is they're going to take all the LLC's assets. It protects your personal assets, your home, your car, all that sort of stuff from the lawsuits. I used to be particularly adroit at this and getting my individual clients out of these types of issues when someone would sue with both the LLC and actually them personally. It's very difficult to actually get through to you personally when you set up the LLC. So please, there are a lot of, honestly, our competitors out there and stuff that will advertise in sole proprietorship or is the best way to do it or whatever the case. No. Get the LLC. Why? Because it protects your hindquarters. So if you ever get sued or otherwise, or, if God forbid you can't pay the rent in the business, they can't go against your house. And you're able to sort of, I can't say walk away from it completely, but it will give you dramatic protection. Number two, let's talk about patents and copyrights and trademarks, right? Different elements. Let me just address them very quickly for this group, what they all are. Patent protection and invention, right? Like the design or some of the technology in your iPhone, okay? Inventions. A while back, they passed something really funky. If you guys are ever interested, a business method patent. If you can write one really well, I can give you an example of what would have been an amazing business method patent if they had done it. The drive-through. If McDonald's would have, or whoever started the drive-through, that was something that could have been patented back under the business method patent statute. But generally, patents protect some innovation, some new cool way of doing something or whatnot. They don't last forever. They last for about 15 years. I will move on because I'll be honest with you, I lecture about patents all the time and I can do probably 4 hours on it and none of it gets more interesting. So next one is copyrights. Copyrights are generally your works of art, motion pictures. Again, I know you guys are down the San Diego way, but again, your neighbors to your north know a little bit about this in the Los Angeles area. I mean, in motion pictures, your music industry, that's copyrights. Candidly, software can also be protected as copyrights. A lot of people don't realize that. So if you write or have unique code written for you, you can protect it as a copyright and such. One of the cool things about a copyright is it's global. Patents are not. US only. You can extend them globally if you want, but generally they're US only and they last, give or take, depending on what type of patent, for about 15 years. Copyrights are really morbid, by the way. Copyright statute is written so the copyright lasts for currently 75 years past the death of the author. Why did they have to put that in? I mean, it's so morbid. But just on an aside, copyrights and patents are very historical here in the country. Thomas Jefferson actually put them into the Constitution. If you ever read it, page to page, you'll actually see it somewhere in there because he was a Renaissance guy back in the day and such. I know he's been known for some other stuff, so I'm not going to address that, obviously. But just to know they got in there. The third really level of what we talk about is trademarks, and that's your brands, right? We have, it's your trademark is what you're going to trade underneath and such. It's, Coca-Cola, Nike. And a lot of people don't really, you see them every day, but you don't really understand, okay, well, what is the, what's the basis for a trademark? Well, imagine going to the store, mind you, and you basically went into the store and you don't know whose corn that is. Is that, Jolly Green Giant versus your local, whatever. The trademark lets you know that Coca-Cola is made from Coca-Cola and you know what it's going to taste like. Okay, every Coca-Cola is going to taste the same. I've been very fortunate, and I've had Coca-Colas. They probably have the greatest distribution network in the history of distribution networks in the world. That's their real signature. Okay, and you can be in sub-Saharan Africa and grab a Coke, and you know it's a Coke because you see that signature red and that little white, swivel on it, or whatever, and you know it's a Coke, and it's going to taste the exact same as it does in downtown Atlanta. Okay, that is the value of a trademark. Okay, I'm old. I'm 51 years old now. I will admit to you, I love McDonald's. I still love McDonald's. And I know if I'm like, down the street right here and I can eat some McDonald's, or if I go out, out by you all. Wait, is California outlawed McDonald's yet? You guys may, who knows? I don't know. Okay, you guys still have McDonald's? You know what I'm talking about. Okay. But you still, like
Yeah, we have In-N-Out though, so.
Oh, I had one of those recently. Those were awesome. Okay. But it's going to be the exact same thing because they have the actual brand. Okay. That's what the trademark does. It protects the trademark. I'm going to tell you one more that a lot of people don't know about. And you've sort of heard about it, but it's trade secrets. And basically, trade secret is almost exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a secret that you don't ever want to get out. And if you actually use certain protections in your business, it's very valuable. Famous trade secrets. Kentucky Fried Chicken's 11 herbs and spices. Did I get that right? Is it 11? 11, right? 11, right? We all know the advertising. We're down the street from me is one of the original Krispy Kreme donut places, one of the greatest donut places. You can go down there and see it all in the Beltway. Excuse me, that they make them right behind the glass. Anyways, their formula is trade secret. The Coca-Cola recipe is trade secret. Only so many people actually know this. They keep it in a vault and all that sort of stuff. So there's actually quietly 4 types of intellectual property. So still under this guise of make it legal, and trust me, we've got 10 of them, but the next 8 I'll just rip through real quick. But make it legal. Number one, form a company. Protect your IP, okay? If you have a patent, if you've ever watched the Shark Tank, you tell them that, oh yeah, I've had this patented. You will get a deal on the Shark Tank if you have a patent and you can show proof of concept. Run into a couple of those guys in the past and all that sort of stuff. But again, you get the patent and you basically go on the Shark Tank and you have proof of concept, boom, you're gonna get a deal. Okay, it's that simple because they have that, you have that monopoly for that period of time. Get your patents, get your trademarks and such. Question number one that we had, how can I see if my idea is already patented? Okay, patent search are very complex. Trademark searches are really easy. Just draw them in, to basically give you an example. Trademark search, there's a very simple, you can't adopt a trademark that's like somebody else. You can't get a patent for something that's already out there. I'll be honest with you, I wish I had a cheaper way to do it. There's a guy up in Sausalito, California. His name is Nielsen, Steve Nielsen. And we have sent him all of our patent work over the years. He's the most reasonably priced patent attorney. Amazingly, again, not to just go back to the California thing, in Sausalito, he's the most reasonably. You would think we would have found someone in Nebraska or Iowa or something like that. No, Sausalito. Who knew? I mean, a gorgeous place, but he can run a patent search for you, but you can actually run a search to actually see if it's out there. I do not consider myself even as skilled as I am in the industry to be skilled enough to actually even tell you how to do it, because they really have some mad skills to actually do a good patent search for you. And it is a valuable thing. Steps to creating a patent for an invention. Again, I've been sort of a trademark and a copyright guy. I just wrote my first patent 3 months ago and such for a new technology that we will be introducing quietly through our company later this fall and such. And I will tell you, it was painful. And I am an attorney and I have been around and I work for the Patent and Trademark Office. And I guarantee you, if it was like this back in the 1900s, Edison would have never patented the light bulb. It is painful and it's redundant and it's silly. But how do you actually do it? Getting to the point of the question, what you can either do is what I did was I actually searched basically how to write a patent. And there's a ton of YouTube videos out there if you're really interested in as to how to do it. And then you can actually search and download dummy patents or patents that other people have filed and sort of do it on a makeshift way. And you can actually just sort of copy what they've done. If you really, truly, truly want to do it right, though, hire an attorney because there is such nuance in it. And I think Nielsen, I'm not, by the way, I don't get paid by Nielsen or anything like that. I just know Steve. I think he can probably get it done for you as cost effectively, possibly for a simple patent, it's like $6,000. And I know for most of us, that's a lot of money. And I'm not trying to shake a stick at that. But you don't get a patent versus $6,000 for a really great invention. You'll see if you can actually swing it, it's worth it to actually hire a professional. Just to let you know, I'd be willing to bet my patent probably won't issue, even with my experience, because I'm sure they're going to nitpick it and figure out something that I did wrong and such as life. but how do you get it actually patented? That's with how you would do it. Also, and the part of this question is along with how to go about getting NDA papers. Lauren's got my contact information. If anyone ever wants a really good NDA, I probably got 20 of them, and such over the years. I'll be happy to send it to you in a Word document. But generally speaking, if you're going to be talking to investors or just possibly future partner or somebody like that, and you want to share with them something, a standard NDA agreement is, always pretty ironclad, and it's pretty simple to do. You just say, yeah, here, this way, we're going to tell you about this, and you can't, go and take it and make your own business out of it. But again, Lauren can send you my information, or I can send her an NDA. If anyone wants it, just contact her, and I'll be happy to send you guys a couple forms for them. They're pretty straightforward. Sorry, I can see something cool popping up here. Do you need a prototype for a patent? Did someone actually just say that?
That's the question.
Yeah, prototype for a patent? No, actually you don't. But you do need drawings, and the drawings have to be hyper specific and such. And that's again it's an art form. And again, you can hire patent drafters. A lot of times people will actually go to patent agents as opposed to patent attorneys, and that's also something that you can do to maybe save a couple of dollars. But you do not actually need a working prototype, to the best of my knowledge. No, you don't. And such. All right. So I just was taking so long. I'll try to hurry it up here. When to register a trademark? Anytime, honestly, as soon as you have it in your mind. I would get a application on file with the Patent and Trademark Office. They have a type of application which is called an intent to use, which means I'm not using it yet, but I want to see if I can use it in the future. And you get it on file. They'll go ahead and vet it for you. And assuming that it gets through, and they say, oh yeah, we're going to give this to you, et cetera, then they will, issue the trademark. And then once you start using it, it's yours. So that's the best time to actually get on with a trademark. All right. Moving on. I'm 30 minutes here. They told me to wrap this up around 35 minutes. So everyone get close. I'm going to be like the old FedEx guy that talks really, really fast. So here we go. So just get your ears on. Here we go. Next one, just real quick. This is a shorter one. Rule 3. So I'm sorry. So finally, rule 2, make it legal. Yeah, rule 2. That's where we are 30 minutes into this. Rule 3, build it to scale from the start. And it's interesting because a couple of you, or at least one person here says, resources, how to know what you don't know when starting a new business. Your education as an entrepreneur should never end with this, fine program that you're in right now. It's just the beginning. You need to be reading every book that you can on a routine basis. And, I say on this point, it's, build it to scale. If you have not already read this book, E-Myth, this one is by Michael Gerber, right? This is a classic. Please read this. And because it is probably in my top 3 or 4. By the way, you can't see my little kitchen here. It looks so nice this way. It looks like a fraternity party that way and such. But I have all my books piled up for you to mention tonight. But the E-Myth is basically all about systemizing your business from the start and such. Again, I don't know Michael Gerber or anything like that. I just think all entrepreneurs should read this. It changed our business's life. COVID changed our business's life. But if you systemize your business, think about McDonald's. Did anyone ever see the movie The Founder with Michael Keaton and such? Anyone? No, okay. Great movie. The McDonald's came up. Okay, thank you, William. The McDonald's brothers basically came up with this great system. Ray Kroc just basically took the system and franchised it. But they're the ones that systemize it. So you want to build your business, put everything in a manual, put everything that you can do to the most the minutia you can imagine. Write it as if you're going to be handing it off to someone else someday. Because when that happens, everything is systemized. And so you wake up every morning and say, okay, here are the 19 things I have to do to make money in my business every single day. Now, it may come, second nature to you after a while, but that's just because you actually know how to actually do it. But imagine when you start hiring your first, second, third employee. First time I hired employees, can you imagine? They had a 3-week session of this. Oh my gosh. How they stayed with me for 10 years each, I have no idea. But I put them through this rigorous training because I wanted them to know our systems. So when people again come back, well, how do you shoot up to the top of your industry? Because I wrote everything down like Mr. Gerber said to do. And then I basically trained everyone on it religiously for 3 weeks. And by the time I released them, and then of course I managed it, and we had this level of customer service that was just stunning in our industry. And that's why we rocketed up to the top. So again, build it to scale. Okay, from the very start. Whatever you guys do, write down everything. Okay. Number 4, shamelessly market yourself. You can have the best product in the history of products. If no one knows about it, it doesn't matter. No one's going to buy it. And again, I know it sounds obvious. And there's just a couple examples I'll take you through very, very quickly. Jamie's going to remember this one. You know, every Saturday morning or whatnot down in South Florida for a while, you know, when we were growing up as kids, there's this crazy guy that would come on TV and he was dressed like a monarch. He was dressed like a king. And he basically sold tires. His name was the Tire King. And he made a fool out of himself making all these commercials. My parents used to laugh at him and all that sort of stuff. His name's Chuck Curcio. You know, I went to high school with his son, Jason, who, by the way, now brokers businesses down in South Florida and all that. And Chuck started off selling tires at the South Florida flea market. And then had one location called Tire Kingdom. That's why he was the monarch. He'd be dressed in these silly robes and all that sort of stuff. Big, thick mustache, thinking, you know, the quintessential 70s guy and such. They had 2 locations, 4, 7, 10, 15, 20 locations. Sold his company. Can't remember when it was the first time he sold it, but he sold it, I think, to the Michelin Group, the big tire group, for $300 million. Ha! Who's laughing now? So, you know, he didn't care. His job was to basically sell his product. And people initially thought, oh, what a knucklehead, whatever the case may be. Yeah, but he was a knucklehead that sold his business for $300 million. You know, this is back, I think, in the 90s. And maybe it was either 8, I'm sorry, there's a big difference, 80 or 300 million. But still, if you really want to split that hair, you know, okay, fine. But, you know, shamelessly market yourself. People don't like when I mention this one, but I'm going to do it anyways, because if you ever read Art of the Deal, back before President Trump was our, you know, president, he basically was really great at shamelessly marketing himself. To be honest with you, I mean, a lot of people theorize that's why he won the election, because he was just marketing his businesses through these things. I'm not here to get political. What I will tell you, though, is that man was absolutely fantastic at getting the New York Post, the New York Times to give him, as he said in the book, The Art of the Deal, it's $50,000 for a full page ad. And, you know, in one of these, you know, newspapers, they're covering me every single day. I don't have to pay them anything. Shamelessly market yourself. So when you come out with the product, okay, again, you could have the best new widget you ever had in your life. If no one knows about it, you've got to figure out where your customers are and how to get your product in front of them. Because if you cannot, you know, it doesn't matter what you have. I mean, marketing to me is probably the second most important thing when it comes down to actually running a business. Your marketing. Number 1 is, you know, cash flow. Always is cash flow. You got to have money, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then, you know, number 3 is, believe it or not, the actual product itself. But I think, you know, marketing and cash flow are right there together, because otherwise you don't have one, you don't have the other, and such. And then you get the product eventually, and such. But again, shamelessly market yourself. All right. Number 5, you can't pull the cart by yourself. Build a great team. You know, what you need to do, again, if you want to actually, you know, get, you know, really do a really nice job as an entrepreneur, is envision your company where you want it to be in 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. Write down all the positions you're going to need and slowly hire to fill them as you go along. Define what each position is going to be. Okay. I did this in my basement. I said, eventually I'm going to need a director of marketing, and that person's going to do all this. I'm going to meet a sales manager. He's going to do all this. You know, I'm going to need an operations manager. She's going to do all of that. And you eventually find the perfect people to basically hire and put in those slots. Do not be intimidated by people who are smarter than you. In fact, seek them out. You know, hopefully you will hire people who are smarter than you. Okay. And such. And that's the way you really build up a great organization. Treat them well. I am not an advocate for basically the old school of, you know, management, which, you know, you're lucky to have a job and all that sort of stuff. I'm more be accountable, treat your teams well, but drive them hard as well. One of the other things that I highly recommend that everyone read on this subject is Harvard Business Review's on leadership. Okay. If you haven't read this one as well, this is another fantastic book to read. It'll take you through the 6 different types of leadership, and then you determine what type of leader you want to be. But it lets you know, like, basically how to assemble teams, how to assemble them well, and then how to lead them properly. Again, you're not going to go anywhere if you basically can't build a really great team. And you assemble a really great team, you know what you want to hire for, and you'll do great. Okay. Number 6, my favorite one. Ignore the naysayers and work your, and I had to change this for this because I didn't know if Jamie was going to approve me to actually curse, so I'm going to keep it all PG. But work your butt off. Okay. You know, it's, you know, this is actually from you guys as governor. If you guys ever watch YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff, you know, Arnold's, you know, one of his favorite thing is, you know, ignore the naysayers and work your butt off, and such. And it's absolutely true. You know, famous, you know, story, probably the most famous story about this is, I think it was Yale Business School. But Fred Smith writes this business plan about how he's going to have packages delivered overnight. And his Yale professor just, you know, tears him up. Okay. And says, that will never work, or whatever the case may be. Well, you know, as we all are aware, FedEx has done okay over the years. And Fred Smith's business plan that he presented to his professor did all right. Now, by the way, that's not a slight or a swipe at professors or anything like that, but it is just an acknowledgement that, you know, not everyone's going to get your dream. And that's cool. You know why? It's not their dream, it's yours, and such. And so a couple things that I preach, you know, both in the book and in life is there are going to be people that support you in your life, and there are going to be people that basically say, yeah, you'll never, you know, be a success, or that won't work, or whatnot. Ask yourself 2 simple questions when anyone says anything about what you're planning on doing in life. Okay. Number 1, do they know what they're talking about? Okay. I have tons of friends that have told me, you know, trademark company would never work, or this new business venture would never work, that, you know, we're going off on, and all that sort of stuff. But these are people that have gone and worked for like Fortune 500 companies, who've never been an entrepreneur, have never launched a product and such, and they've lived a relatively safe existence. Okay. Hey, I respect their views, but it doesn't mean I'm going to listen to them. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And you're never rude. Oh, thank you so much for your, that's fantastic. Thank you for the advice. I really appreciate that. But always know, like, do they know what they're talking about? Okay. You know, top 5 people or 4 people, I would say, know who they're talking about in entrepreneurship. If you ever get a chance and such, watch Shark Tank. Again, go back to Shark Tank. They know what they're talking about. They know balance sheets. They know, you know, instantly, can you market this product? How much? You know, each one has their own subspecialties, you know, and again, I won't bore you with that. But again, if you're ever on the Shark Tank, you ever watch one of these entrepreneurs get their nose pushed out of joint because they start, you know, telling them the truth or something like that, that's a shame. If I took my trademark company on there and they sat there and tore me up, I would say thank you, because they know what they're talking about, and they could basically take me to a whole new level if I was ever to get on there. And then the second question that you've got to ask in this subset is do they have ulterior motives? All the time, I have seen, you know, people that actually know what they're talking about. But if you ask the wrong person and they don't have your best interests at heart, okay. And some of this can get a little bit personal, so I'm not going to go down that road tonight and such. But you do have to basically just make sure that when that person you're asking, hey, what do you think about this? You know, if it's someone in your life or something like that, and they basically don't support you, well, wait a minute, maybe they didn't support you because they didn't want you to go out there and spread your wings. And I think that's the nicest way I can say that. But again, ask yourself those 2 questions. Do they know what they're talking about? And what's their motivation? Do they have any ulterior motivation? But, you know, again, you just got to ignore the naysayers and work your buns off, and it will work out. Number 7, as we wrap this up, cash is king. There's not really any stories about this or anything like that. You can, you know, ultimately for a business, you want to be profitable. You can't live forever on cash flow. You've got to make sure that you are making a profit. Okay, here comes another shameless plug. Okay, again, I do not know Michael, but I love this book. Okay, this book, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and again, this is going to sound like, when I say this, if I sound like a jerk, I apologize. I founded now 3 multi-million-dollar organizations. Okay, this book changed the way we did our accounting. This is just a little shave of brilliance from this guy. I think it's his best. He's written about 4 or 5, and I'll show you another one here in a minute. But he's written about 4 or 5, named Mike. Go ahead and you guys can pronounce it. I don't know, maybe he stopped by earlier this year. You know, who knows? But this is a great book. It teaches you a simple way of accounting for your new business that is so simple. You're just like, I don't even know if I really need a set of books. You do still. But this on a day-to-day basis is a really great way to actually, to run the business. But cash is king, okay? You need cash flow to run a business. I used to have, we'll just say discussions all the time with a former friend of mine who was an accountant by nature. And she would, beat me up all the time. Your books are off, your books are off, your books are off. And at the time, our business was going through an incredibly difficult period. Most people looked at it from the outside and they said, you will not survive. There is absolutely no way you're going to get through this. And, the answer is remember the second part of the governor's advice, work your butt off. We rolled up our sleeves. There's 24 hours in a day. I can get by on 4 hours of sleep. And I did for 2 years while I stitched back together some really serious issues that we had with our company back in the day. One of the other reasons why, by the way, I think I have something to offer for entrepreneurs is not all the time is it pretty. And basically, you just need to know that everyone has gone through some hardships, and you're not the only one. And reach out and talk to somebody. And the answer is often going to be is work your buns off, okay? But you'll get through it if you work your buns off and have a plan. But within that guard, cash flow is a dangerous thing because you may think that as long as you have cash flow in and of itself, you can just continue to run the business. You ultimately have to take a hard look. And if that cash flow is not ultimately profiting you or leading to profitability, you have to make a hard call because you can't just continue to dump your life savings into a business that's you're never going to get back. Okay. So cash is king. It'll keep you going. And it's more important than a good set of books or anything else. Ideally, you'll have everything. And it'll keep you going. And that is the number one thing. But again, you have to also work towards profitability. That book profit will help you. All right. Next up, relate, innovate. I don't care if you're a t-shirt company. I don't care if you're Apple. We all remember, Steve Jobs. And I used to think it was sort of random. It's not, his iconic black turtleneck. By the way, I went through a Steve Jobs phase, and every day for about 2 years, I came into the office in like a black turtleneck and a blue pair of jeans. And this was a horrible look for me. But anyways, I even put my good black t-shirt on for you guys tonight. But innovate, please create an innovation schedule, okay? Because what's going to happen is if you create, let's say, like, again, you come up with a t-shirt company. And, one of the best examples I can give of this is, okay, I don't know if anyone will admit it, but, there's this inventor called, her name is Sarah Blakely, okay? And I can remember first watching her on back in the day when everyone was getting a reality show. Richard Branson, there you go. Yeah, I know you knew it, but I ain't going to call you. You saw anything. But Richard Branson had a 1-season reality show where he was going to, again, do the thing. Did she go to FSU? Really? Wow, look at that. All right, go Knowles.
And you're a Gator though, right? So.
Well, that's why if I stayed in state, they would let me play football for them. So
Okay.
It's a much smaller place. So Sarah Blakely wins this Richard Branson's first thing, and she has this concept for Spanx, which is, I guess, form-fitting, garments, undergarments for ladies or whatnot. I think is that the best way to say it? I guess I don't know. But anyways, and you're sort of thinking one hit wonder. I mean, how far can she actually take this? She took it to being, I think, a self-made billionaire, if I'm not mistaken, and because she kept innovating different lines within that product. And so it doesn't matter if you're a clothing manufacturer, if you're, it doesn't matter. You have to keep your consumers and future consumers, somehow energized about what you're providing to them and be relevant in the marketplace. Because if you just come out with one line of something, your competitor is going to look at you. They're going to come up from behind you. You will never see them coming, and they will mimic everything you did, make it slightly better. And next thing you know, your market share is gone just like that. And you're like, well, what happened? The answer is, well, you weren't continuing to innovate. You got complacent, and they came and they took and ate your lunch. And that's exactly what happened. So, success is this almost like this drug, because you start thinking you're so amazing and wow, woohoo, we have all this money and all that stuff. And I don't want you to basically ever think that you shouldn't enjoy those successes. You should celebrate success because it's awesome, because that's what keeps you going during the hard times. It's coming back and you work hard. But I will tell you one of the strange things about my personality. I hope you guys will, do this as well. I work really hard when things are going down, and all this sort of stuff. When we have a little bit of trouble, I work really, really hard. When I strangely work even harder is when things are going well, because I never want that to go away. I never want that feeling to go away. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it's so much easier to run downhill than run uphill. And so I encourage all of you when things are going well to just double down and keep, working hard. So remember, innovate. Number 9, as we come to this end here, captain that ship. One of my failures was that I trusted the wrong people to run my organization too early on, and it nearly cost me bankruptcy and such. And I was heavily criticized for this by my peers and such. And so what I learned is that you can never completely, walk away. I thought, oh, you start a business and you hand it off to your number 2, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, what ended up happening is, you always have to have, in essence, some knowledge about what's going on in the business. You'd like to think that you don't, but you have to create that perfect pyramid that you absolutely know what's going on in every phase of your business. But then your managers, as you get larger and larger and larger, are able to report to you, because then you learn how to see red flags early on, and you can actually stomp them out. Again, go back to the Harvard Business Review book on leadership styles. Very important there. But captain your ship. You can't ever just walk away from your business. You got to be there. And the number one example I can give to you of that is restaurateurs. People who basically know about restaurants know that they never can leave them, because they will get effectively stolen blind. That's the restaurant industry and such. But you always have to basically continue to lead your organization and such. Lastly, yay, you made it. Congratulations. Number 10. Success doesn't happen by accident. And again, this is going to be one of those things that most people will say, well, you've got to be kidding me, but plan to succeed. I use 3 levels of planning on a day-to-day basis. And I'll mention my age, so you know how hard I work as an entrepreneur to basically make all this sort of work. But number 1, business map. I got this concept from the great Tony Robbins. I'm a huge Tony Robbins lover. I'm just a big fan of his across the board on almost everything the guy says. He talks about this business map thing, and I talk about it in my book. But in essence, getting from point A to point B. What do you want your business to be? Okay, you're going to start a t-shirt business. Okay, that's fantastic. I want to have 10,000 units sold every single month. Hey, that's awesome. That's a dream. How are you getting from point A to point Z on that? Okay. And so you actually create a map and you review it. This is not a joke, 3 times a day. Okay. And so everything from your finances to your marketing, you create a map of every single thing that you need to do to get from point A to point Z to get you to that. And I suggest an annual business map, but you're updating that 2 or 3 times a day. Okay, as you see something, oh, here's a new marketing idea. Let me put it somewhere here. We'll launch that in June. Oh, here's something else and such. And as you basically create this map, it will keep you focused on what you need to be doing, successful things to make sure that your business actually makes money. Okay. The number 2 thing is the daily checklist. I think Zig Ziglar is the one that talked about this. And once again, one other book, if you haven't read it, this is a classic. Everyone should know this one. Zig Ziglar, Over the Top. Okay, read it. Okay. I think Zig is the one that basically says every night before you go to bed, you assemble your to-do list for the next day. Successful people and successful entrepreneurs pound through task lists. I have modified it ever so slightly. I'm an early riser. I don't know why, but I just love the morning. There's just no one disturbing you. You can get a lot done. And so every morning by about 5:30, I am up and I'm preparing my checklist for the day. It takes me about an hour and a half, to get it prepared. But then what do? I attack the stuff I don't want to do first thing in the morning, because you get it out of the way. Don't procrastinate. Get that high level type stuff. And that checklist should be broken down to, as you're an entrepreneur, break it down into sections. What's going to grow the business? What's my administrative stuff that I have to do, even though it's sort of mundane? Marketing, whatever the case may be, you come up with your own categories for everything that you have to do under that business, and you just pound through them. And I will be candid with you, at least for my personality type, it's really cool to actually get off check boxes because it's like a little star like you used to get in, elementary school, and you're like, oh, check box, cool, I got that one done. And so at the end of the day, you have all these check boxes. But then the cool thing is tomorrow, if you didn't get it done, it just rolls over to the next day. And lastly, and I'm sorry it's across the room, and amazingly the dogs have actually, been good here during this entire time. I have a monthly calendar. This goes back to my trial attorney days. And so I get one of those big things from Staples or Office Depot. And so for your really super high level stuff, like if I've got a meeting, or I'll be candid with you, the more that you like, the longer you're in business and such, it appears like the more government officials want to actually meet with you with something. And so like high level meetings will go on the calendar. So like on the 15th of this month, I'm going down to meet with blanky blank about such and such and this, that. And so you can at least think about that 2 weeks out. It at least helps me because I don't know, again, I'm in a crossover generation where we did everything in paper calendars. I'm sure Jamie can remember back when we had like these literally these books that had paper calendar, all that sort of stuff. And they were great. They kept me really organized. But today everything's electronic and it just doesn't pop up for me as much, because now if you look at my electronic calendar, oh my God, there's so much junk in it, who knows? But those 3 levels, annual business map, a daily checklist, and then a monthly big planner, honestly will keep you, going along pretty strong here. I have a lot more, and such, but I was supposed to go 30 or 40 minutes and I yacked you guys' ears off for 56 minutes. I'm so sorry. And such. And I almost had a glass of wine before we started. You guys are really lucky now, and such. I do have, I answered, I think 3 out of 6, maybe 3.5 out of 6 questions. I can just pop those real quick if you want, and answer the other ones, and then we'll open to see if there's anything else, or if you guys just want to get about your lives here. Business and growing your brand and such. Personal opinion, today it's both the hardest and easiest time in the history of businesses to basically grow your brand. Oh, sorry, I guess all my lights said it's time for me to go. No. With online and such, you guys can have an instant brand, TikTok and Instagram and, probably other social media stuff that I don't even know. The greatest thing is you can get out there very fast and, really start, growing that brand. The worst or the hardest thing about it is what the reviewers will do to you. That is why you absolutely have to create great customer service, and basically make sure that you have just really do great things for your customers early on, because growing your brand is as much about getting your name out there in marketing today. It is about keeping the boo birds at check. And I will be candid with you. Again, I've run several businesses. You have absolutely no idea what people will complain about. It is stunning. They will give you a 1-star review. You will go above and beyond, do the most amazing service that you're just like looking around and go, wait, what happened? You got a 1-star? Well, yeah, it was 30 seconds late. And you're like, we did miracles for you. There you go. Here's another one. Secret Service. This is his best book. John DeJulius. Again, I get no money for this, but I just want you guys to succeed. Read this. This is about the best customer service book I've ever read. This guy was a hairdresser and he just gets it. And he basically, he basically just talks about how you create secret customer service systems when you're in your organization. And it's sort of simple stuff, but it makes you actually think it through. Like, one of the little secret services that we actually do in our organization. A lot of our services are promised in 3 days. Are they ever delivered in 3 days? 2. So the customer actually thinks, oh my God, this is fantastic. They came in within 2 days. I was waiting for a 3rd day. I got on the 2nd day. Thank you, John. That's just one of the things that you learn from that. But to grow your brand, you can do anything from, I think primarily in this day and age, you just got to hit social media. I think that's the primary thing. We're fortunate that we transcend that because we're, pay-per-click ads, tons of blogging, all that sort of stuff. But, growing your brand through blogs, video blogs, podcasts. Does anyone know what the difference between a podcast and a blog is? I still haven't figured that one out. Anyone educate me? No. Okay. How do people get over the initial barrier of starting a business? Tony Robbins, take massive action, get it done. You just have to jump off the ledge and just do it. I told you I was going to show you another book by Mike. I recently just read this. I think this is the first one he wrote. It's called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Honestly, it's a little bit more for him, like a rah-rah book. Go out and do it. Just do it. You know, the Nike expression. But it's a good book if you're actually looking, if you're the person that posted that question, how do people get over the initial barrier of starting a business? You may want to actually look at The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. The other one, and I'll just be candid with you, the thing that changed my life was I had founded my business, but it was still me in a basement before I started hiring everyone. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, please pick that up immediately and such. This is more of a philosophy of entrepreneurship and who you are working for than anything else. But it is a fantastic book to read. And again, he references a whole bunch of other books in that, but it is, you know, a fantastic resource to start. I have tons of stuff here that I could continue to yabber on. People are welcome to stay on, or Jamie can knock me off and say, get out of here, or Lauren or whatnot, or we can open it up for questions if I haven't bored you all to tears already. What would you like to do, Dean?
Yeah, we can hang out for a few minutes. If anybody has to sign off, you certainly can. But if you're willing to stay on for a few minutes, we can answer any questions that might be left.
I sadly have no plans. I'm here. So fun.
Well, thank you so much. This was really fantastic and really some great information. We've got to get you to come out and speak in person. I think that you would be a phenomenal speaker for one of our events in person. So we'll have to look to do that. So thank you for being here. And if there are any other questions, then we can close it out.
Thank you all.
I just have one question.